Okay, now it says we're live, just as everyone outside my apartment is screaming for our heroes.
Right.
Um, um, Hi Jamie, how are you doing?
You know, could be way worse, but not ideal. How are you?
Um, I'm good. I'm doing all right. If do you want to if no one has seen your video, which is such a it's a shame if you haven't, but can you explain a little bit about who you are, what you do, what's your deal for everyone watching?
Sure. Well, my deal, which is clearly something I should just have on hand as an elevator pitch, is I live in Queens and I am a tarot reader and oral historian, and also I write some shit um, with my best friend and their partner. It's funny, I think not in quarantine, I might say things not about my tiny home and who lives there if I describe myself, but here we are.
Here we are. Um, you have an excellent newsletter called Pop Tarot that is all about tarot and pop culture, which is great. It's how I learn about TV shows.
Really?
I do. I feel like just from years and years of you talking about black sails, I feel like I need to watch it now. Also, I saw a tweet the other day that was like, "Oh, the best like the best management course you can ever take is watching black sails."
That is true. Someone, like someone on Twitter for Pop Tarot said that they did not know the all-time low song I talked about, Weightless, and that they loved it. And that is genuinely the best thing that's happened to me in this newsletter, which is like going pretty well for me. That I spread the gospel of Weightless is really
That can be your tagline for the newsletter. Um, the number one thing that we got to talk about is what I tease for this live stream, which is that you bleached your hair before all of this quarantine stuff happened and made it a trend. Why'd you bleach your hair?
a few friends were talking about doing theirs, and I said maybe I should do mine. And one of them said, "You are mentally ill and unemployed. You need to do it now." And that, it took like 3 times. My hair could be way more dead than it is. Um, it went okay. I have never really gotten it to go okay, and I've been fucking with hair dye since I was 15.
Nice. I think it looks great. I just need this to be on the record for everyone that you did it before quarantine and everyone also became mentally ill and unemployed.
That's true. I'm the original. The other thing is that I had the mullet before quarantine.
And also like before Tiger King, like all of this stuff.
I'm so mad. I forgot about Tiger King and my fucking hair. Whatever. It's all about me.
I will be the Carol Baskin to your Joe Exotic if you need.
Thanks, pal.
um let's talk about your apartment a little bit. I'm wondering, so you live with roommates. How is that going? Are you at each other's throat yet now at week 7, week 8?
Knocking on wood. No, nothing bad has happened with us, which is we are all introverts and we have an extra room because they share a room, which also is the trade-off for being right next to the above ground train. But we can all be behind closed doors by ourselves, and often we are, and like we get along very well. We're also like, this is my best friend of 12 years and their partner that they first kissed at the prom. So we're all really pretty. We go back.
I love that. That's great. I think definitely like having that space to yourself is very helpful and important. Being able to not talk to another human being.
So good.
um, what have you been doing like in your time? How are you spending your days?
Yeah, solid question. I already was starting off with a pretty bad memory, and now at the end of the day, I'll be like, well, that happened. Don't know what it was. I've been writing some. I have been, oh my God. I think I've actually been doing more than usual. But what?
It all just disappeared.
No, I don't think it was there to begin with. I think I did the activities. And then that was I've been painting my nails a lot more.
I love it. Um, if there's anyone in the chat as well who wants to ask a question of Jamie, I forgot to say that at the top of the live stream. But you have a question, Jamie is legally obligated to answer. So, I like the painting the nails. I think that's like a hashtag self-care thing. The nail aesthetic, and then also you gave yourself a stick and poke.
I did. I did it with my I'm on injectable testosterone. I did not buy tattoo needles like a regular adult. I was like, I don't know if this will work. So I just took my like injection needle and put some probably dirty thread on it. And my roommate's situation is such that I did this in the living room and one of them walked out and was just like, oh, you doing a tattoo? And I was like, yeah. He was like, is that going to go well? And I was like, no. And then he like went on a walk. Very unperturbed.
That's good. That's a good atmosphere to have. Yeah, have you been leaving your apartment much, or are you mostly staying indoors?
Mostly indoors when it is nice out, as today. Go on a walk. I live in Jackson Heights in a pretty residential area, which was on purpose, which means like I can go on walks and see relatively few people, although I imagine that will change as it gets warmer. I did recently was on a walk and I saw someone like in an upper window, like holding a baby up to the window, not out the window, but like up to the window and just sort of bouncing it like outside exists.
Wow, that's really sad.
Was really, yeah.
I wish I didn't know that.
I wish the baby waved. I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
The baby's like, oh, I wish I could wave to you from the ground. That's good. That's good. I'm curious. So we're all about oh, actually, no, I'm going to back up. I forgot a question for a second. Wow, I'm sorry for everyone watching my incredible unprofessionalness. Have you like changed your apartment at all in order to deal with the fact that you're staying in it for so many hours?
A little. Previously, I just never hung out in my room. Also, previously, my roommates were mostly not here. So I'm spending way more time in my room, which is okay because I have my fainting couch. Also, this week, in a huge move for me, I found a desk in the basement. I Lysoled the shit out of it. It's like one of those like giant school desks where there's a whole like metal canister on part of it.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's barely been a good space change.
Is there still a sex poltergeist on the fainting chair, on around the fainting couch?
Okay, look, it was gone for a long time. Then I was doing some sex stuff, and my light went out. My like lamp by my bed, and I was like, I've had this bulb for a long time. This makes sense. It went out for a bit around then. And I didn't change the bulb, and now it's just fine. It's been fine for many weeks, like for all of quarantine. So yes, there is still a sex poltergeist.
Good. So you have your fainting couch. Are there any other objects that you have that are kind of like bringing you comfort in this time? That is like either kind of objects that have always kind of brought you comfort or like new for this quarantine?
By bringing me comfort, do you mean sparking joy?
Sparking joy, yeah, the Marie Kondo way. You could either sparking joy or one prior answer was just like a nice ass blanket. So like that works too.
I was in an adult B'nai Mitzvah cohort, which was supposed to happen this weekend and did not because I'm choosing to wait for in person. But some of the other people went on Zoom, and they are relatively old. And one of them mailed out stuff that apparently she was going to give us, and she mailed me 7 like rainbow colored yarmulkes
Oh, nice.
and like a little tarot notebook, which was really sweet of her. So yeah, now I have these brightly colored fucking yeah, that's my comfort object right now.
I love that. Yeah, that reminds me. I was going to ask you about your mitzvah. Um, so you were supposed to it's just a Banai mitzvah. I'm not saying that right, but you were supposed to have
No,
it.
I think yeah, it was supposed to happen. It's gonna happen.
So what was the process? How long were you preparing for that? And then things went awry.
It was fucking 3 years. It was me and a bunch of retirees. There were like a few people in more middle age, but mostly older people who had already done this as a youth or weren't
Oh
allowed to
yeah.
because from being women. Whereas I'm like, teach me the new things. And it was, I've seen some of the best passive aggression I've ever seen there. Um, really, it was a good vibe.
um, how are you like staying in touch with everyone from your synagogue? Like, are you still doing like meeting services? Like, what's going on?
Um, yeah, I'm going to Zoom services, which is wild. And also great because I'm alone. So I don't have to deal with other people and I can just have my moment. I also started keeping Spot, which I hadn't done before, which seems like a weird moment to do that, but it is nice to very aggressively not be on like email, text, whatever. And I'm also like, I'm not doing no technology. Like I'm watching TV. But like that has been a new religious quarantine practice that I've enjoyed.
So it's just like a communications Shabbat.
Fan. No, it started that way. And now I'm trying to not really use the internet, but like can use my computer for like writing or like do like Rosetta Stone or something.
Mm-hmm.
I read books. That's new. I try reading. It only goes okay, but like
What have you been reading?
I am reading Paul Takes the Form of a Mortal Girl, which is the best thing I've ever read. Also, James and the Giant Peach.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, do you do you feel like when it comes to when you're reading books or watching TV that you're kind of going back to either kind of like old shows that are familiar and like bringing you kind of comfort, or you or even like reverting back to like childhood? I know like there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm playing video games that I played when I was like 12. Raise hand. But like yeah, just wondering how are you kind of balancing out your pop culture intake?
So yes and no. On one hand, I just watched Bake Off this year. I watched all of it before quarantine, and now
Oh heck yeah.
yeah. Oh my god.
We just finished, I guess it's collection 6, I think, on Netflix, which
Who's in that
is
one?
um uh like Ruby and Kim Joy and Raul are the final 3. Well, I guess I just spoiled that for everyone, but
What I've really been watching is A Series of Unfortunate Events, which is a mix of new and nostalgia. Um,
yeah.
I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, I do remember that. And then sometimes like,
How is that going? I watched the first season, but then kind of dropped off.
I really, really like the sets and costuming a ton. I like the script pretty significantly. I don't really like the acting or directing. But I find that it's a show that like I don't have to sit down and watch a whole episode. I can do it in chunks and it works equally well if I am stoned or not.
Yeah, I feel that. I think the thing about a series of unfortunate events is I feel like every year I have a moment where I'm like, oh, how did that end? And then
I don't know if I read the ending.
I don't know if I ever did either. I remember very vividly, like whenever the new books come out, like going and picking them up and like, and they were like not the most like challenging books in the world. So I'd be like halfway done with it by the time we got home. Like, but just like loving it for whatever reason.
Because they're great. We're the same age, right?
Roughly, yeah.
I feel like it's possible that the last one came out when we were like just at the age where you're like, I'm too cool for that.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, we like moved on. I feel like I missed like the last 2 or 3. But I still also like I read the Wikipedia articles probably every year of like, oh, how does it end? And I don't get it. Like I don't understand the ending just from the synopsis.
I'm finding it way less. I remembered like the letters VFD, didn't remember anything about what that was, and because they're like kind of threading it through. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know that, but I guess that's good information to retain.
Yeah. I feel like that series was just full of like a lot of red herrings about like what everything meant. And if I had finished it as a child, it would have emotionally prepared me for Lost in a much better way.
And yet here you are in quarantine with no preparation.
I've never learned. Well, is there anything we didn't get any questions? I'm sorry, but you're not legally required to answer anything from anybody.
Nice.
Any last words, any last plugs you want to make? Where can people find you if they want to find more opinions about a series of unfortunate events?
You can find me in 3 places. You can find me on, as you were saying, poptarot.substack.com. You can find me at jamiebeckenstein.com. Jamie, Jamie, when I picked it, I didn't really know how many spellings there were. So that was a mistake I made. And also on Instagram at rail_mail, I write, underscore. Rail_mail_. I write dirty letters for money. So if that is a service you require, ETMU.
Awesome. All right. Find Jamie all those places. Thank you, Jamie, for being on the live stream show.
Thanks for doing it.
And now I'm ending this.